Well, hello out there. It's the A to Z Podcast. I'm Zach Jackson. He's Andre Knott. A to Z Podcast.com. Facebook.com/A to Z Podcast, where we post some articles, post all the podcasts, share some announcements when we have them. And just this morning, Andre, I posted the Deadspin Classic, the reasons your team sucks, the Cleveland Browns. I haven't got to read it myself yet, but as soon as I saw the link, I went running to Facebook.com/A to Z Podcast to make sure that got up there.
I'll be honest, it's already saved for me. It's when I eat my lunch after we get done with this stuff, it's going to be my reading material.
You are a man who knows what he wants in life.
I want food, and I want Deadspin to tell me what's wrong with your favorite team.
Hey, shout-outs, as always, to Scene, to Honeymoon Grill, to American Fireworks for helping to make this thing happen. If you're new here, we sometimes get excited, venture into mature/immature subjects, and say four-letter words. So if that's not for you, if there's kids around, or if you're in a work environment, please put on your earbuds or come back some other time. Now that we got that out of the way, we don't script this, and we have a lot that I think we're going to cover today, Dre, but I need to tell you this before we venture down any other road. So the Browns are on day 5 of training camp as we record this. On Monday morning, they'll have an off day. They'll have a scrimmage, all that. We'll get into that. So you've probably been following that. And if you haven't, it's going to get bigger and bigger because they're only 10 days from the preseason opening. Anyway, it's the first or second day of camp, and maybe a half hour before practice starts, and I'm in the media room with Jimmy Donovan. And we're talking about the quarterbacks, and we're not arguing or predicting or hot taking. We're just kind of going through the different scenarios that could play out. You know, everything from one of them balls out and the other doesn't, to one of them's a disaster, to one of them's great, to if somebody gets hurt, whole deal. And we do this for 5 or 10 minutes and go over the different scenarios, and Jimmy looks at me and he goes, well, we'll see. He goes, the one thing I promise I'm not going to do is get hooked by that first preseason game. He goes, do you remember last year when Kaiser threw those touchdowns and they won and like it was Kaiser Mania? And I do. And he goes, yeah, the first one was to Richard Mullaney, and the second one was, I forget who even he said. And he goes, do you remember the excitement in those calls? And he looks at me and he goes, wait a second, that was me making those calls. And he launches into full Jimmy Donovan play-by-play. Goes, ladies and gentlemen, Deshaun Kaiser just threw the greatest preseason pass in history. The Browns win! The Browns win! And the whole media room stops, and they're just looking at us like the idiots that we are. Jimmy's hair is flying out different ways. He's sweating. His face has turned purple, and we are just dying laughing. And I'm just thinking to myself, that is how we're starting the next A to Z podcast.
Yeah, you just gave the best insight to being around Jimmy Donovan at training camp. And at any point in life, if you're around him and a subject comes up, how he just goes into play-by-play of it. And he can do it in your life. He can do it in an old play. He can mock himself. He'll ask you about other play-by-play guys and then do their play-by-play. The guy is a play-by-play genius in his own way, and I can totally see that happening. And it's crazy as training camp starts. And I told you this a couple of nights ago. I wasn't that excited for football, but a couple of things have happened over the last week, and part of it's been just reading all the different articles in the different places about the different camps and who's. And it's the beginning of camp. Nobody's better than anybody else. I mean, there's teams that are better. Don't get me wrong, but not much really has changed since the draft, right? Like. You have who you have. You have who you don't have. Who you don't have. But the enthusiasm of Jim Donovan. If the Browns ever it'd be great for everybody. There's so many different people and scenarios that it'd be great for. But the calls that Jimmy Donovan and Doug Deacon would have, and I guess I'm saying this because I'm really close friends with both of them. To hear what Jimmy would be like if the Browns could, I don't know, win 8 games and win like 3 in a row, it would be heaven on earth for that guy. He would be sweating all week long, getting ready to tell you about Vitale catching the ball out of the backfield. And I would just die and talk about Des Bryant getting in a fight on the sideline because somebody will throw him the ball and talk to him. It would just be ridiculous.
You're exactly right. Nobody works harder. I mean, even as they've lost all these games, this is a guy that stays up till 3:30 in the morning and obsesses over the second fullback on the Chargers roster for when he gets in so he doesn't botch the name. He really does. It's awesome. And I know we've said it. We talk a lot of shit here.
Find a story where he's from, who he is, who his dad was, who else played in the league.
Yes.
It's amazing the little information.
We need to get, and not together, but separately, we need to just quit talking shit about it and do it. Get Donovan and Deke on this podcast.
For sure. It's time. It's definitely time.
The best story, I tweeted this to you the other day, but I didn't give you any context. So I forget if it was if Deke was maybe dressed up more than usual or was maybe wearing his sunglasses inside or something, and he came strolling into the media room and somebody looked at him, I forget who it was, and said something to the effect of, Deke, you trying to be snazzy for Hard Knocks or what? You trying to get a little TV time? And he goes, oh, no, they don't want to see me. He goes, of the Hard Knocks guys, they were asking for Zach. And I turn around and he goes, they want you to be a sunblock. I said, you fucking asshole.
Well, you told him about when I went on break, and he texted me. He was like, "What water fit your fat ass?" He like, a little bitch told me that you went to the water. Yes. I mean, it is great. He used to. And if you guys have listened for a while, we know you've heard us talk about Deke and how he calls me Andre's bitch boy. But now he just refers to me as bitch, like that's my proper name. Like it doesn't matter who's around or if I'm working. He'll come right up, shake my hand, and go, "How's it going, bitch?" Or he'll just be like, "Hey, how's your bitch? I haven't talked to him in a while." Right. And then whatever you tell him, he texts me to make fun of me for it. Like no matter what you say.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can be like, "Andre's been really sick, and he's been really, it's been tough for him." Hey, bitch, heard you were sick.
No doubt. So just a couple of things. We'll come back and at the end of the pod, because we have some other things we want to touch on. We'll do some Browns Q&A stuff. But the rub with training camp, two things, is one, it's the only time we can watch practice and report on it all year, and it's what's going on. So it doesn't really matter big picture, but it's what's going on with the Browns, and you see what you see in practice, right?
Right.
I am with them on this, and this is the line in football in general. If from all the way where the NFL, where these guys make millions of dollars, to youth football, where do we really need to put 9 and 10-year-old kids in pads and let them smack into each other? It's the old school thought of don't run camp cupcake, and you got to create a mentality, and all those things are right, part of football, discipline, toughness, all of that. But it's also when these guys are worth millions of dollars, and you're playing 16 games, and the biggest games are in November and December, and it's fucking July. Like, it's okay for guys to get a vet day off. And I know people on Twitter, look, Hugh deserves a lot of criticism. Hugh is a clown, and he says a lot of shit that doesn't make sense, and he's 1-31. Those are the facts. But sometimes it really does feel like piling on when you go after him for that, because, like, why does Myles Garrett and Michael Kendricks and why do they need to practice every day in July, right? Like, if you have research, and the Browns do have this, that backs up the soft tissue injuries, just the general wear and tear, and the investment they both have and plan on making in a guy like Myles Garrett, I personally got no problem with Myles Garrett getting a day off here and there in July and August. Well,
I agree with you, but it's a slippery slope that you're on, and I'm not there every day. And the thing I'm about to say about football, and where the Browns are, and I continue going back to this, and I know you guys laughed at me. I had somebody tweet me yesterday talking about Mayfield, and we'll get to him, and they're like, y'all better remember Dre's pod from last year. We told y'all about bananas. And I cracked me up because I was like, wow, people actually pay attention to what I'm saying, and it makes sense. You are correct. And why overwork somebody in August and July? It doesn't make sense when you run them to play through December, right? I don't disagree with that part. But at the same time, and I'm going to sound like my man from 850. I haven't heard him in a while, so shout out to Gerard, and this isn't about concussions or anything. How do you build toughness of a team and character of a team if you don't set a precedent of who you are and how you practice and what you are? When you're in New England and you already have an identity and you already know who you are and what you are, you're good. When you're Philadelphia, that's fine. And you're talking about individual players. Jamie Collins.
Yeah, I mean, we're not giving guys 5 days off in a row, Dre.
Right. And so I get what you're saying. You have a valid point. I would just be very cautious of it because you have so many young guys and you're trying to build an identity. And like you could talk about Hugh. Hugh's biggest thing is just building an identity of trust amongst you, the writer, amongst me, the casual. I'm not a casual watcher, but I'm a watcher for the fans, for the Haslams, for his own players. He needs to build something of confidence from all of these different groups because none of us, let's be honest, we all know his record the last 2 years. And anything that falls on the wrong path, he doesn't have like most coaches have a little equity, right? We got a little bit in the bank.
Sure.
Or if they do something wrong or say something wrong, we're like, he came up with a great game plan against Pittsburgh last year, or he did a great job bringing this guy along. At this point, whether he has done that or not, Hugh Jackson doesn't have that. And unfortunately, and to me, this is the bad. We said the word abyss last time, but this is the black cloud that's over Berea. Any and every decision that's made gets questioned twofold because it's the Cleveland Browns, and with Hugh Jackson, it's even more because of his lack of success.
Can't disagree with anything you said. But if on August 6th in fucking practice, Myles Garrett gets a high ankle sprain, then isn't you the asshole there too? You know?
Right. I know.
This is football.
You're right.
Listen, let's go back exactly 10 years. Everything went wrong for the Browns when they went all in, and everything went right, and everybody got fired. Everybody knows that story. And remember they went out to that Monday night preseason game against the Giants, and Jamal Lewis got hurt, and I think Kellen got hurt.
Shawn Rogers is buying a leather jacket right now in New York City.
Yes. And everybody was all over Romeo for Camp Cupcake. But it was like for the first time in years, the Browns had dudes that had experience and had some pedigree, and they were going for it. So you're always walking that line, right? It's the nature of the beast.
Well, and that goes, and I'm glad you brought that up because that goes back to what we're saying. That was Romeo Cornell. Everybody was so excited, and I think management. That was one of, and I'll never forget Mike Trevisano and I fighting on air during that season, and he said, "Oh, Romeo's got to go. He's lost control. He doesn't know what the hell's going on." Blah blah blah. And I was like, "We're not giving him any. We gave him no credit for winning 10 games, but losing 8 games, we were killing him because of how they lost, right?" And because we were talking about, the camp was Cupcake City. What are they doing? Why don't they push these guys? Why don't they do this with these guys? Even though they went into that preseason game, about 6 guys got concussions that night.
Right.
Like the whole world changed. And it's well documented. I guess that was where it comes up. Like San Diego, the other day, they lose one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL goes down. It's part of rolling the dice of the season, though. Guys are going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You need some luck, and unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of luck in Berea because I know Emmett and those guys, and I bring up those guys because they used to kill Joe Thomas for not practicing all the time. And I think in knowing what we know today, I think I don't know this because I haven't really listened, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that knowing how banged up he really was and what he was really going through, and I think you and I felt this way anyway. What are you providing by making that guy practice every day? But there is something. If you go to ask Jim France right now, matter of fact, shout out to high school football practice starters today. In high school, you don't do that, and I know it's different. In college, Urban Meyer, I'm pretty sure, isn't going to say to Bozo the second day of 2 days, "Hey, you know what? You sit out." It's something that you have to do. I know the Indians did it with their relievers in spring training, and it was a little weird, and it makes it even more weird considering where the relievers have been so far as we go into August.
Right, but who's going to remember these games? Nobody.
Exactly. Nobody. Well, you just said that you gave it the best point. Jim Donovan just does the play-by-play and mocked himself already a week ago from what he did a year ago.
Exactly.
So, greatest point you can make.
Yeah, I mean, look, you look at Myles Garrett, okay, and his muscles have muscles. He is even stronger and in better shape. There's a few things that need to happen for Myles to hit his ceiling. One of them is obviously personal development as he goes. He's still 22 years old. He needs to play. He needs experience. He needs to refine his techniques. But the other ones are A, just staying healthy, right? And B, like playing on a good team where you can unleash him. So, nobody wants to see him out. First of all, there's no competition for him on the field. And I don't mean this to say that Myles is lazy because he's not. He looks bored out there, right? Like, he's ready for the next step. You can't get the next step on July 30th when you're Myles Garrett, right?
Right.
He is going to put in the work each week. Out in the fields in front of the Hard Knocks cameras where nobody is. He's done it. And it just come down to him having better injury luck, him putting in the work, which he will, and then his personal seasoning and experience and talent, refinement, all that stuff meeting the opportunity for him to go get 12, 14, 15 sacks, which, as we know, comes down to do you play on a good team and do you get chances to just tee off on quarterbacks.
Right. Yeah. How many opportunities will he get to tee off in the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
Like you just said it. Like that's important because the guy with his talent, if they can tee off, that means they're up 7. That means they're up 8. That means they're up 10. They're up 3. You need the opportunities. You need the opportunities to get going. Yeah, you can get one in the first quarter. That's great. Yeah, you can get one in the second quarter. But to be a great player, I mean, and the guy I've compared him to, and I'm only comparing him because they've been Browns, and they both have these unbelievable physiques. They have these unbelievable nature of just doing things that people their size that other people can't do. But they also have a different type of personality than most guys. And I've compared him to Courtney Brown. And I've never met him, so it's not fair. I'll say this. My comparison's not fair. This is my comparison from afar. And knowing Courtney Brown a little bit, but not knowing Myles Garrett, but reading about him and hearing what you say about him, what other people say about him, it reminds me a lot of Courtney Brown. And Courtney Brown, to me, was one of the best players that most NFL types never really got to see. And I say that because I can go back 16 years, 17 years, and his game against Chicago Bears is one of the best games I've ever seen a defensive end have. Where he had 3 sets.
It was incredible. Yes.
Yes, it was, and that's the type you need. And let's be honest, for the Browns to win, and I don't know what number we want to put it. And if I say 5, y'all think I'm gonna sing. But for the Browns to win 6 games, 7 games, 7 games, aren't you going to need a couple signature Myles Garrett games?
You are, because
you're going to need a couple.
He's
games.
your best player or second best player, and he's got to play like it, no question.
Right. So you're right. They need to get him to mid-September. They need to get him. They need to get him in October without those ankles getting hurt. Without him, without people trying to tell me that a high ankle injury isn't going to affect him the rest of the year. Like, remember we had Bozos last year. Remember we did a podcast when he first hurt his ankle last year, and I had some dude attack me going, he'll be fine. And I'm like, dude, high ankle sprains end up bothering you all year long.
Right.
I want to see that guy healthy in 6. I want to see him healthy in 6 regular season games in a row. And then we can start discussing.
And that's how he will get better, because he will need to say, okay, I did this, I got beat on this, I dominated this way, teams are playing me differently. All of those things. That's how it goes. You're in Minneapolis, and I want to talk about that baseball team you cover, but I want to come back to Akron quickly for 2 notes before I forget. One, today is the opening of LeBron's school. I've written about it. We've talked about it. He did have a level of personal involvement in it. His financial commitment to it has been awesome. It means a lot to him. It's 4 kids who grew up and like him. And whatever you think, whatever he's done, wherever his basketball career goes from here, it is awesome. It's got the opportunity to change hundreds or more, maybe even thousands of lives through the years. And kudos to LeBron, Raymond, motherfucking James for that, because as great as he's been, that's awesome. 2,
well, it's more important. What he's done is more important. What he's done with the school and what he's done in the community
goes without
is more important than anything he's ever done on the basketball court.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Goes without saying. And then another guy who, with a fat Nike contract and a fat ego and a fat bank account, Tiger Woods, is in Akron. It's a big week. It's the last one, unfortunately. These are the realities. But Tiger's here. Tiger's 11-1, Dre, and this could be a really big weekend for golf. I really think that.
Big weekend for golf, big weekend for Perkins, Bob Evans, and any other breakfast.
Come out.
Just trying to help the old ladies that work in the clubs.
Jesus. We're having a good adult conversation, and you go and do that.
Hey, I agree with what you're saying, but that's part of the conversation. That is part of the conversation when it comes to Tiger Woods. I mean, and I'm not saying that's who it is, but I was just having this conversation with my wife and somebody. We were having lunch with somebody, like other adults, and she said that's the most famous Wednesday night before Thanksgiving of all time. And it was Rob. I think Rob brought it up too, because Rob was all excited. He came up to Detroit. Jim was like, everybody knows about that night before Thanksgiving better than anyone else's, because it changed the landscape of golf, unfortunately. And I hope he's back. I hope Akron is. It did. And for my wife to say that, and who doesn't care about golf, who barely pays attention to it, that tells you the impact that Tiger Woods has. I mean, a couple weekends ago, it was riveting how many people were all just, whether it's at the ballpark, whether I'm driving, stopping here or there, whether it's in the clubhouse, whether it's in the bars at the ballpark, whether it's in the studios or wherever else. Everybody had Tiger Woods on a couple weekends ago. Everyone was wearing red shirts. I was making fun of everybody wearing red shirts, and not just Chris Fedor and not just Springer wearing his hat backward, wearing a flat bill. Everybody was into it because of Tiger Woods. It's unbelievable the effect he has on the nation when he's playing golf well. It's unbelievable.
I've told the story on here before about how he dunked on me at a press conference a few years ago. Been there many times, generally as a fan more than even though I covered it a couple times. And to watch the galleries watch him at Firestone was an awesome thing. So I probably can't get out there just because of Brown's obligations and whatever else. And frankly, when Sunday rolls around, this cranky old man ain't going out in a crowd to fight those people, even though it's only 3 miles from my house. But they don't need me because it's going to be rocking. And if he's contending, it's going to be awesome. And I'll make sure my ass is glued to the TV come Sunday afternoon. All right, Jerry.
Let me bring up the LeBron thing real quick, though, too. I saw a cut from Uninterrupted that was where he talked about the school, and the school is phenomenal. And I have to be careful of this because I've said something that I really believe. Comparing his basketball career and what he's done off the court, pretty ridiculous in my opinion, because you have to give props to someone that can look outside of the box for themselves and realize that they can help others, and then truly put their mouth and their time and their money to it. And I know some people could simply say, well, he could give $1 million more. He could give that much more. Well, regardless, if you say that, look in the mirror and ask yourself, what have you given back to your community to make your community 100 times better than what it was? It's for me, and I know that you feel this way probably too. You have educators in your family. My sister's an educator, my aunts, my uncles. There's not enough people in this world that, we talk about standing up for cops, and I'm for that. Standing up for our service people, I'm all for that. But not many people put their money where their mouth is when it comes to education in our country, in our city, in our states. And we can keep letting, different things separate us, names and titles and what side of politics we're on. We can keep colors of people and race and sex. We can keep letting all those things separate us. But if we don't take care of the education system in America and somehow find a better way to get kids to want to get educated and find better ways to educate our kids to the level of other people around the nation and around the country, we're going to fall further behind than we've ever been before. So you don't got to like LeBron. You don't got to like his shoes. You don't got to buy his shoes. You don't got to buy his shirts. You don't got to see him dunk at his damn son's game. Think about how narcissistic you got to be that you go to your son's AAU basketball.
Oh, I know. Right after he talks all that shit about I regret naming him LeBron Jr. And then he goes
right.
Right.
See, that's the one thing we can do here. And I'm glad that just happened because that's a fair way of dealing with anybody. And it seems like when you talk about certain people, you either glorify them or you have to hate them. And that's an unreal way of the world. Like, Zach talks shit about me like nobody else, but he'll give me props when I'm not paying attention. He'll give them to somebody else. Like, it's okay to call LeBron out on being narcissistic as shit, but also give him credit for things that he does that no one else is willing to do and go places that no one else is. You can say what you want about Michael Jordan. You can say what you want about Kobe, but I give LeBron props for his narcissism and as full of himself that as he is. It's unbelievable that he has had the foresight to do what he's doing today in Akron, Ohio.
Amen.
And what he's done, not just today, not just what he's done today, what he's done his whole career in his hometown is unbelievable.
You are exactly right about your education piece there, too, but here's what it comes down to, Dre. Someone in his position helps one kid, changes the kid, goes out of his way with personal commitment, time, money, whatever, to help one kid. That's an awesome thing, right? Well, it's in the thousands. It's in the thousands that he's done and committed to and will continue to do. He left once. He still helped Akron kids, Cleveland kids, and he's going to continue to do that. So that is awesome. 2 questions.
But he said something though on that uninterrupted that I just got to say real quick. He said about going to the Lakers. And I know he's going to talk today, and I'll be at the ballpark. Hopefully, I'll see. I'm sure I'll see it because it's LeBron. But he kind of said going to the Lakers and talk about going to this iconic. And I'm not getting verbatim. I was listening on the bus drinking a beer. But he was basically just being honest. But he just talked about going to the Lakers and how great an organization it was and going to his championship organization and all their history. And I kind of get that. And on one hand, it's like, all right, you're reminiscing like you're 15. And he talked about being a Bulls, Cowboys fan growing up. And it was an incomplete reason for going to L.A. He talked about how torn he was with opening up the school in Akron, but in his own professional career, going to LA and doing something that he's always dreamed of. And if it's a dream, and I'm not, and you know this in our personal conversations, I'm not caught up in him leaving him. I don't care. Like I guess like he did what he said he was going to do. We move on. Hopefully the Cavs can somehow find out to get the new next Mark Price and be the Cavs of the '90s for us. Get the 8-7 seed and just give us fun basketball. That's all I ask for right now. But just like when that's the first time you talk about leaving, it was just an empty comment to me. That makes sense. It was just empty. It didn't answer everything to me.
Amen. And look, this is going to go. How it's going to go. We've been over this, and him going to L.A. should have seen it coming. Obviously, it was pre-planned. It's just he chose to go to L.A. and play with Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee, and Rajon Rondo. So timeout, right? We'll see what happens. We'll see.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to follow. All right, 2 baseball questions. 1, we're like 30 hours from the trade deadline, and 2, for one day, Corey Kluber was back. So where are the Indians with both of those things as now we turn to August and it gets a little more interesting?
Corey Kluber question first. I thought yesterday in Detroit, this is Monday when we're recording, this Monday afternoon, early afternoon, we finally saw a little bit of a glimpse of the Corey Kluber that we all got to know. I don't get caught up in statistics with him. I know that, it's weird to say that because baseball's so statistically run now. I know his arm slot got lower when his knee was bothering him. I know his pitches were getting a little flat. He wasn't throwing his curveball slider. If he can't throw his curveball slider and make bats miss, he's not the 2-time Cy Young Award winner. He's a really good pitcher, but he's not Cy Young. Does that make sense? He can throw cutters, he can throw fastballs, but he's devastating because he's got one of the most devastating sliders curves in the game, and he went away from throwing it for whatever reason, and no one has an answer. So if you're out there and you think you have the answer, you're just full of yourself. He has the answer, and he won't give it to anybody. And whether it hurt to throw it from the angle he was at, whether he didn't like it from the arm angle he was at, I could try to guess for the next hour, and it wouldn't be fair. I don't truly know. I talk to him every day, and every 3 or 4 days I ask him about pitching. He actually threw it on Sunday. He actually got strikeouts with it on Sunday. He went to the 8th inning on Sunday. Look, you don't need Corey Kluber to be devastating over the next month. You need to build his ass up that he's devastating in the end of September going to October. I think he's getting back there, and I think the team is kind of telling him, pace yourself. Winning another Cy Young Award doesn't do anything. Doesn't do anything for the team. It'll be great for Corey Kluber, but let's be great in October because he could dominate a play. He proved it in 16. He can take you to Game 7, but will he have anything left in the tank? Trade deadline, obviously a big conversation, and I guess all sports have there's no end all by alls in anything in sports, right? Like the deadline is coming up and after that, you can always in August you can do the waivers like they got Jay Bruce last year. I absolutely think they're gonna make a move. They're trying. They've been scouting different places. It looks like Tyler Naquin's gonna be out for a while. Chisenhall's still gonna be out for a while. They have to. And for all the shit the Indians got for signing Michael Brantley, imagine where they would be if they didn't sign Michael Brantley. He's the only one that shows up and plays every day. They have to sign an outfielder. We're not sure if Adam Jones wants to leave Baltimore, didn't want to go to Philadelphia. Maybe he wants to come to Cleveland, but he's a 10-5 guy. Quickly tell people that he basically has a no-trade contract. He gets to pick and choose whether he leaves or goes. I think that would be better than anything else you could do. I mean, there's other moves, I'm sure, but to me, because people tell me, well, defensively he's not as good anymore. He's Adam fucking Jones. He'll be fine. Just put him out there because the one thing I think of is when he played in the World Baseball Classic, he was phenomenal. You could see it brought the best out of him. He's one of those athletes, I think, when you told him, hey, you got a chance to win the World Series in one of your last years in your career, you're going to get the best 35, 45 games he's got left in those legs. So I expect him to do something, but as Tito said this perfectly the other day to me, he's like, Dre, he goes, if we make a trade, awesome. If we don't make a trade, awesome. My job is still to win as many games as we possibly can. More coaches, more managers, more teams need to have that type of attitude.
Agreed. It'll be interesting. So, all right, let's do this. It's only been, 5 days, and it really doesn't get interesting. I am excited for Hard Knocks. The cameras are everywhere. I do want to see the finished product.
When's the first one air? When's the first one air?
A week from Tuesday, the 7th. And then it'll be
okay.
It'll be every 5 episodes, with the last one airing like 3 days after cut day. So that's when it'll air. But go ahead and fire some Browns questions at me. We'll touch on a few things and save some other stuff.
This is basically my asking Jackson, since this jackass won't answer mine online. He's too good to answer people's questions that truly know it. The other thing is, I still want my athletic hat. I'm waiting for it. I don't forget. I got a long memory. Let me start with this.
You have the most convenient memory is what you have, but go ahead.
You've never described me better. Just on that part. Convenient is me to a T. You just called it. That's the smartest thing you've ever said.
Dre don't lie except when he does. Dre remembers shit except when he doesn't want to.
Exactly. Convenience, bitch. Remember that. Konnichiwa, convenience. First question. How much... And I know how you feel about Hugh Jackson, but do this, be what you truly are. How much do you see Hugh Jackson involved so far? It's early, involved with the offense, or is he involved less now that he has a true offensive coordinator there?
Oh, he's more on the offensive side than the defensive side. I think I have seen him do other things. I think the biggest thing, Dre, is that you bring in Todd Haley, you bring in Drew Stanton. There's just more and better coaching, right? There's just more direction, focus in that regard. I'm glad you brought that up because, Jimmy said the other day, unwavering commitment, and people went nuts. Yeah. And I haven't written about it yet because, look, here's the deal. What Jimmy was saying is what he's been saying. Of course he made the unwavering commitment. He kept the guy after 1-31. He did 3 separate press conferences when everybody, including myself, were calling for him to be fired because he doesn't look like he's ever going to be part of the solution, and Jimmy stuck with him. So I don't think that's a new story now. And frankly, until real games start, there's nothing new. Now, do I think there's a chance the Hard Knocks cameras catch Hugh saying something really stupid? Sure. Do I think that he makes some decisions down the road that are baffling and maybe prevent this team from getting to its full ceiling? Sure. But again, we're not yet to August 1st. We're not yet to the second week of camp, let alone to the season. So it's one of those things. It's just like the quarterback thing to me. It's hanging out there, but there's nothing really that can happen. We can watch the quarterbacks every day and watch them work and see what they're excelling at. Otherwise, Hugh's in the same role, wearing the same windbreaker, saying the same things, and we'll see in September through December.
Other thing that I would say to that, you're one of the worst owners in the world if you come out and you go one way or the other the second day of training camp on your coach. And they've learned.
Yeah.
And that's why, in my opinion, no offense to people that did write about it, it's a non-story. Because that's a no-shit story. And those bother me more than anything else.
Yes.
Well, no shit, they're going to stand behind him. As you said, they brought him back. They haven't played a game.
Hey,
you can't throw him under the bus in July.
Not to interrupt you, but I do want to make sure we address this. No shit story reminded me of dipshit story. There's nothing official on what's going on with Josh Gordon, guys. Now, John Dorsey is a pro at not answering questions. He was a deer in the headlights at the press conference last week when he got asked some direct things. So you can infer from that what you may.
Yeah.
And if I had anything to report, if anybody else at NFL Network or SI or ESPN or wherever had anything firm to report that we could report, trust me, we would do it, okay? Right now it's in limbo. Right now the league has admitted that it's in limbo. Pro Football Talk has hinted, and it's just a hint, about some sort of reinstatement before he could even return to practice. Things are pointing one way. We don't know. There's a confidentiality around this. There's a person behind this, as we've been over 100 times. That's how they've spun it, And I heard this today, and again, I'm not going to waste my time this year, and specifically not in late July, correcting really bad radio. But the insinuation that this has anything to do with Hard Knocks is about as irresponsible a thing and as dumb as a side as you can take on all the sides of the Josh Gordon thing. Josh Gordon, a happy, healthy, productive Josh Gordon needs structure. He needs football. He needs practice. He needs to be around his teammates. He needs to be not straining his quad trying to do too much. He needs to be learning the playbook, getting better, collecting a camp stipend, all of these things. The Hard Knocks cameras are not keeping that away, right? He's not here. There are reasons that he's not here. The Browns hope he gets well. Browns fans hope he gets well. We all hope he gets well as a person. The Hard Knocks theory is the dumbest, and to pass it along is really stupid and embarrassing. Thank you. Next question about the Browns, Dre.
I feel like it's a waste of time, and the answers about what should be done with his career as a team are so obvious. It's like the girlfriend that keeps cheating on you or running away from you, and you expect her suddenly to just change. I know that comes off as harsh, but I'm just leave it at that. I don't get the infatuation. No, I get that she's cute. She's got a nice ass. She got a nice booty. She got whatever.
She's beautiful on the inside. Come on, don't be a pervert.
I'm okay, but I get it. Like she looks good, but that doesn't mean she's good for you. All right, second question. If you told me not to, I wasn't even. That's honestly how I feel. And since we're there and we're going there, you and I have had this conversation, but it's time to have it out loud on our podcast. You're there. You see the practices. You've seen the receivers. You've seen OTAs. The Dez Bryant thing sounds like it's a dead story for the Browns. But just your opinion on what you would do if the Dez Bryant situation came along and he truly had a chance to come to the Browns.
Based on what I've seen from the receivers and what I know, because I don't think you could have any level of trust in Corey Coleman and Rashard Higgins and big plays. And I think if Dez Bryant is right and Dez Bryant is interested, you have to go get him, Dre. And now I'll say this: maybe they do think that Josh Gordon is going to be back by a certain day in August, and they don't need to go down that road. But I mean, it is glaringly obvious. And look, in every camp, there's balls on the ground, there's passes dropped. This is the nature of the game. The defense is trying to make plays too. Guys are hot and tired. All of this stuff. And it does stick out more because if you watch all 9 position groups at camp, it's really obvious when a ball's dropped because you don't need to know football to know what you're watching, right? I can't sit there and grade what the O-linemen and D-linemen are doing in their one-on-one drills, right? But I can do it for the receivers. NFL receivers and tight ends are supposed to catch the ball. NFL one-on-one passing drills are almost always supposed to be won by the offense. And in an NFL practice, it's supposed to be fast with the ball not on the ground. Okay,
for sure.
The Browns have serious issues in that point of the game. Again, there's your answer.
Okay, I hear you. I'll go back to the beginning of how we talked about this and building culture. I don't think you can build a culture around a me person that goes out of his way to be a me person. And that's just what I saw in Dallas more than anything else. Very talented. If he understood his talent and understood where his talent is at, that his talent isn't where it was 6-7 years ago, but he still could be very helpful to our team and be one of the best possession receivers in football, that I'm all for him. But if you're getting the guy that's selfish, can't look in the mirror and realize when he needs to shut up, and can't realize that sometimes being quiet is the best thing to do, I just don't see where he helps. But we'll see. I get what you're saying. I just think that the character thing, and here's the question I'll say to you, and this is not a question, but is he worth, let's say they're a 5-win team. Can he make them a 6-win team, and is that 6-win that important to deal with everything else that comes with them?
I think that's a great question, but I think to a certain extent, John Dorsey and I are both more interested in touchdowns than rap sheets and chemistry.
Hey, that's all right. I'm with that. That's quality. Here's a question I got for you. This is real.
No, let me interrupt you real quick. Okay. Dez and Pack, right? Get the strap, Roger Lima. Get the strap, bitch.
Get the strap.
They have been at various times the kind of assholes that you need ownership sign-off and organizational sign-off to sign those guys. They have been the kind of assholes that you have to do what you just went through, Dre, and internally ask yourself, are we ready to handle this? But the thing is, there's a lot of guys who are like that, and just it's not out there publicly. There's a lot of guys that are guys that are driven by their own personal motivations. You hope that you create the culture and environment of winning and unselfishness and sacrifice, and you hope that their talent helps you get your organization to the next level, and then you make those decisions accordingly from there.
Yes, for sure. Let me ask you this, because I think this is going to be a real I don't want to say thorn in the side. Joe Thomas is a friend of ours. Joe Thomas is more on our side of things and on the football side. Made a comment last week. He was great. I don't know if anybody saw the video where they asked him to say one thing about every quarterback he played with. He's great at those little things. He's lost his weight. He's dressed up. He puts the suit on. But do you think that in the back of Berea's mind, there's a little nervousness when he talks about, because he talked about the lineman. And he was like, there's no way that guy's going to be a left tackle.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a little nervousness as to you can't control Joe Thomas? You couldn't control him last year. But
no, because I think that's majoring in the minor if there is.
Well, who are we talking about?
Well, you're right. We're taking strides here. We fired Matt Wilhelm because we can't trust him to not be an idiot on the radio, but we gave him a scouting internship. So, we're one step forward, 2 steps back. But, no, they are conducting themselves more and more like a pro organization. We've been there. Joe obviously has incredible insight on the Browns and on line play and on all of those things. But, yeah, I honestly don't think, Dre, in this incarnation of the Browns, cameras everywhere, welcome expectations, pressing questions, and the annual optimism, I don't think that registers on the Berea-Richter scale at all right now. I really don't think so.
I try to stay away from this, but it's a part of it. And I don't want to be like everybody else, but the Baker Mayfield stuff, how much did you watch of the show he had on Fox? I didn't watch any of it.
It was during practice, so 0.
Okay. And you know how the tweets go, and I text some of them to you just to get chuckles and just to remind me of stuff. His arm's always been pretty decent. I also saw pictures from my man Daryl Ryder that I clicked and saved and put away. He was in the pocket, and I'm not comparing him to Johnny Manziel, but you couldn't see him. You saw the ball, you couldn't see him in the pocket. It was a great three picks by Daryl Ryder. Go follow him on Instagram. It showed him in the beginning of the snap, it showed him in the middle of the snap, and it showed the end of it. And I don't care if you're his biggest fan or his biggest detractor. That scared me. Otherwise, what have you thought of the quarterback so far?
Yeah, I think Baker has thrown the most consistent ball. I really do. He's really accurate. They knew that all along. Now, I think some of the bigger plays that have made their way onto the internet maybe wouldn't have happened against a live rush, Dre, and that goes to my bigger concern, kind of along the lines of what you just said. But I think as far as one, obvious improvement in Baker's body language and confidence and just stepping up and throwing it from the spring, which is what you would want. And then two, I think Tyrod had a couple days that weren't great, but then the passes he throws them on the money. Big picture, am I worried that either guy can challenge defenses more than 6 yards? Yes. But do I think that the plan they have at quarterback is sound in its logic, has a chance to be sound in its execution, that these guys are making each other better, and that they can work with Haley and the running backs and whatever to design an offense that can allow these guys to get out of the pocket and have some opportunities at various times, sure. So I think, again, as we come to the first stoppage at camp, I think they'd say the quarterbacks are right where they would want / hope them to be. You get another good X number of days of practice in, and you go and you give in Tyrod's 2 drives. It's not make or break for the season. It has nothing to do with what will happen, but you want to carry that through because these practices do matter. And when you play a preseason game, especially on the road, you end up going 5 or 6 days where you only have one real practice. Right. So you hope that they come out and they look sharp, and Tyrod is the veteran you're paying him to be, and you go from there. But again, I'm not giving anybody an A+, but I think they would be more than satisfactory with what they've seen in early impressions.
All right, I probably only got a couple more. I mean, I can go on and on, but this is one I should probably wait till next week, but I won't remember, so I'm gonna just do it now. Who will America fall in love with when the Hard Knocks TV show starts?
Who will it be?
Will it be like a Kirksey? Because I see the microphone's always around Kirksey. And they've been around
Kirksey, around Landry, around Myles Garrett, around the quarterbacks, around Peppers is a really, really smart, engaging dude. So I think Peppers and Landry are my early picks for that.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. What's the best snack you've had in Berea so far? Are you still going to Jimmy John's?
No, they feed us. They feed us.
Okay, yeah. I was like, I miss those days.
Yeah.
Of course.
And all right. And 9 days out of 10, it's really damn good. So
good. Yeah, the food has always been excellent. The bobbleheads. It looks like. I'll say this. I did a ton of training camps in Berea. Haven't been in Berea this year, but I can say the first day they've done a good job of whether it's the 2 things where you can run the 40. The human bobbleheads are scary, but pretty cool to see as well. Bernie Kosar had that many curls in his hair in 15 years, 20 years.
Uncle Bern was out there one day.
Was he? Good. Yeah. My boy Tim Couch has been out there. And look, all camps are great right now, whether it's spring training.
Tim Couch looks like he could play middle linebacker right now.
No doubt, man. His arms are unbelievable. Good for Tim, though. I'm looking forward to hearing him. I am. No offense to anybody else. I'm looking forward to hearing Jay Crawford and him do the games. Be something new. There's always a refreshing feeling of going to training camp. How the crowd's been, and did you tweet about or did you write about the guy that was saying 10-6 that he was cutting out the receivers?
Yeah, it's funny. The setup is new, and they've done a great job of more bleachers and trying to get people, because it's just not ideal back there for how you want to do camp.
No, it's not.
So it's so spread out. It's hard to tell. But I think the crowds have been engaged. So this was Saturday, the day they were really struggling with the whole pass and catch thing, and Coleman dropped one early, and then got yelled at for not lining up in the right spot. And some fans were like, "Oh man, Coleman, you got to start learning this, man. Come on, Corey, it's time to go." So then they completed about 3 or 4 in a row, and somebody said, "Man, I got us at 10-6." So then Coleman had some more drops, and somebody else had a drop, and they threw a deep one to Corey because that's what they do. And I mean, when he beats the jam tray, he just runs by people. That's his thing. He's a sprinter. So he toasts E.J. Gaines, and E.J. Gaines clearly holds him. Well, 2 refs right there don't call it. And Corey gets up and complains about the call. Well, Todd Haley comes and lights up Coleman. You got to fight through it. You got to make the fucking play. You got to do all this, whatever. And it comes back to the huddle, and the same fan that was yelling 10-6 stands up and goes, "Coleman, I can't wait till they cut your ass." And so, look, that's the whole thing. But it's not just him. That's the example I'm using. But that's the whole ebb and flow of camp and whatever else, You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have good passes, bad passes. You want to do it. I thought
Corey Coleman. I was going to ask you about Corey Coleman because there's a conundrum that comes with him, but I'm going to let this play out first.
Yeah, exactly. Njoku had his 4th drop yesterday, and Daniel Fells, the guy they signed to come in and be the veteran tight end, who wasn't even practicing. It was his vet day off, came and grabbed Njoku by the shoulder and wasn't taking no for an answer and drug him away and talk to him one-on-one. So, like, that's some real vet leadership. That's what wasn't on previous teams. Will it matter? I don't know. I'm just saying that's what I saw. I got about 3 minutes, Dre, so what do you got? Final thoughts? Anything?
Final thoughts. Your birthday's coming up. You feel any older?
My birthday is in the greatest month of the year, but it's not towards the end. I don't feel older. I've been energized by going to camp, honestly. I need some structure.
Good.
I'm glad you brought this up. So, shameless self-plug here. We tell you all the time, if you're not on board with the athletic coverage, especially at this time of year, you're getting left behind. A few weeks ago when we talked about me going out of town, that's why we missed a podcast or two.
Yeah, that's right.
I went to Milwaukee to spend some time with Joe Schobert, the Browns Pro Bowl linebacker, who I knew his story as a walk-on to Pro Bowler. I know he's a guy that looks more like a punter than a middle linebacker, but I didn't know Joe. I followed Joe on Twitter. I saw him tweeting about having a youth camp. So I went up to Joe, and I said, what would you think if I came out to the youth camp, spent a day or two in your hometown? Could you make an hour for me? And he said, that'd be awesome. And that's the only time we talked. I am quite confident that when I showed up, he didn't know what my name was. He just knew I was that fat writer from Cleveland. So I went to the camp. They retired his number. It was awesome. Met his high school coach, met some of his friends from college and high school. Stayed in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I didn't even know it was pronounced Waukesha until I got there. The next morning, spent some time with Joe and his fiance, just kind of talking about life, and then off the record, stuff. And then on the record, Joe and I went for a drive, and we talked about football, and we talked about life. We pulled into the where he went to elementary school, and talked about him making the Pro Bowl, not having a single scholarship offer out of high school, frankly, because he was small and white and didn't have the the measurables, and then making it all the way to the Pro Bowl. It was a really awesome thing. The Browns list him at 240 or 245, and he's not that. And at one point, I got him to admit that he's 6'1" and 230, and I said, so am I. We just carry it a little differently. So that part was cool, but I think that the story is going to turn out real well. I talked to, like I said, a bunch of people from his past. He's not a flashy guy or a me guy at all, but I got him to open up about some things about being 0-16, about playing every snap on a team that doesn't win, about being doubted your whole life. About being a 6'1" white guy that can do between the legs dunk and earning respect that way in college. So I hope I do it justice, and I'm not going to do it on here because I want the story to come out first, but I have the part of the interview that I recorded, and I was thinking about maybe throwing that on the end of one of our podcasts. So
that'd be awesome. A reporter question, and this is important, and all you young reporters that are listening, or old ones, because you always can learn. When you know someone's story and you know the story that you want to write, but you know that you need to talk to them and pull something out of them. And you're going to talk to their old coaches, their old people. Like, I know if I go interview someone that knew your elementary school teacher, I know they're going to say nice things about you. They're going to say, oh, he was a nice kid, or he was this. What's the question, or how do you form a question to a person to get the most out of them and not just give you the answer that you know is coming?
It takes preparation, because there's stuff that I found out about Joe just from spending hours literally on Googling articles that had been written about him previously. There's stuff I found out about Joe from standing on the turf at Waukesha West High School and listening to his relatives or friends, talk about him during the jersey ceremony. And the one thing is, part of his story is he looks like a terrible pun alert, average Joe. Like, he does not look like a linebacker. And so when I framed it to him, Dre, I said, listen, there's a lot of guys that are beasts, and you're not that. And, do you have to do anything differently to survive? Or B, does that affect you going forward, your chances to have a 7-8 year career in this league? And he goes, well, I know what you're saying. He goes, but first of all, even if a middle linebacker is 260, and not too many of them are anymore, that 330-pound guard can still smash your ass. He's like, so It's about angles and survival. And he's like, listen, I'm forever a walk-on. I'll always have that chip on my shoulder. I'll always feel like I have to do more than the other guys. And I'll always say that I got tape that shows that I'm stronger and more athletic than people think. So I just got to keep doing it. I mean, he's really realistic about he's playing for his new contract. He's trying to stay healthy. He knows that if he does, he has a chance to have an 8 or 10 year NFL career. He's in year 3, and he wants to get back to the Pro Bowl. So,
do you tell him you know Mason Up?
I didn't. We didn't get there, but it was interesting. Like I said, I'll close on this. So it was a Sunday. I flew in on Sunday morning. The camp was on Sunday afternoon. Took an Uber through Waukesha, Wisconsin. End up at the high school. Spent a couple hours at the camp talking with people, and just talked with Joe real briefly. And I said, okay, where is your favorite breakfast spot? Let's go there in the morning. And he says, okay, 9 o'clock, such and such place. So I go back to my hotel, and I was checking out afterwards. I was going back to Milwaukee because I had an early Tuesday morning flight out of there. So we get done at breakfast, anyway, I look up where it is, and it's like 1.9 miles away, Dre, from where I'm staying. So I just get my ass up in the morning, and I pack my bag, and I walk to this restaurant. So we're getting done, and his fiance leaves. It was the week of his wedding. She had to go do something. And I'm like, well, I'll just ride with you, Joe, and then when we're done, wherever you're going, you just drop me off there, and I'll get an Uber back to Milwaukee. And he's like, well, you didn't drive here? And I was like, no, I walked here. And he looks at me and he goes, dude, that's a heck of a walk. And I go, Joe, you don't know me very well, and you have no idea what I've been doing all summer. Trust me, I needed to walk. And he's just looking at me like, you fucking weirdo.
Shout out to White Claw.
Yeah, shout out to White Claw. Hashtag the claw is the law. So anyway,
claw is the law.
Shout out, as always, to Scene, to Honeymoon Grill, to American Fireworks, A to Z Podcast.com, Facebook.com/A to Z Podcast. If all goes well with travel plans and training camp plans, we got a special guest lined up for later this week. If not, we'll be back here as is on Thursday or Friday.
Yes. Other thing that you need to know about me is I'm excited that we're done with the podcast. Not that, because I can keep going, but I just looked out my window and realized I got food trucks outside my hotel.
Amen.
So peace.
Let the man eat. He's Andre. I'm Zach. See you next time on A to Z.
Konnichiwa, volcanic hibachi. Here I come.